you might be wondering why the lighting might actually look somewhat alright for once. There's fucking hellfire going on outside. Mother Nature just decided to fucking dump the ocean amongst North Carolina today, and that also means I had to delay the recording because the microphone will catch anything within a 50-mile radius. But enough of that. Darby County have been in quite the mess. It's time we talk about that. Now, before we get into anything, if this video could hit 100 likes, that'd be fantastic. Also, join the Discord. So Darby last Friday had announced that they were going into administration, and as a result of that, they have now been deducted 12 points. Now, Darby County did make a statement about it. I'm not going to read it because that's just going to make things boring. It should be known, though, that Wayne Rooney, manager of Darby County right now, and his players were notified about the announcement of administration through Sky Sports. Yeah. Now, to go further into this whole situation as to how Darby County got into administration in the first place, we'd have to go all the way back to the COVID pandemic, or at least the early stages of it. Of course, lockdown hurt a lot of clubs. It especially hurt the lower tier sides, because these clubs rely on that matchday revenue, and if they're not getting that, well, there's nothing else to them. And Darby County were no exception in this, as they've lost around £20 million. Now, there was an assistance program from the EFL, $8.3 million to each championship club. You could probably make the claim whether or not that actually helps the club in a COVID pandemic where only their revenues come from matchday revenue, but that's for another conversation. But unlike every other club, Darby County did not receive $8.3 million because they didn't qualify for any of the guidelines. And you'll kind of see why as we go into this a little bit more. For the most part, Darby have blamed their financial problems on the fact that they cannot sell their club. And it's definitely a lot harder in the COVID-19 pandemic, especially during lockdown when you can't see someone face to face. But these failures could also be in part due to the fact that if you were to own the club, you'd have to clear out about £50 million before actually even thinking about rebuilding. And because of this also, Darby County were limited to just free transfers this window. But how did this all happen? Well, we have to go all the way back to when Mel Morris purchased the club, or at least a stake of the club, back in 2014. Under Morris, Darby County went pretty much high risk, high reward. This meant spending tons of money, I believe 30 million in one window as well. They had some free transfers, but those free transfers demanded very high wages. Did those transfers turn into success? No. If you consider being bottle jobs in the playoffs, then sure, I guess, but that was not exactly their goal to begin with. Especially if you're spending 30 million in one window, you have to have the goal of promoting. Darby County have had 3 particular failures in the playoffs. Playoff semi-final losses in 2016 and 2018, and also a playoff final loss against Aston Villa in 2019. And at this point, the club's annual wage bill had skyrocketed. In 2017-18, it was about 47.8 million. And considering the fact that the EFL only allow a 3-year loss of around 39 million, yeah, they were a little over that. So all Darby could do, as they've dug themselves so deep into the shitter, was find ways to buy time and deal with this situation. So what did they do? Well, let's talk about the fishy situation of their stadium sale. Darby County Stadium was valued around 40 million, and the owner, Mel Morris, bought it for 81 million under a different company and then leased it back to the stadium in order to create a quote-unquote profit. It's nothing illegal, it's very much just a loophole in the system, and multiple clubs have done it before. But the stadium would be proven not to be the biggest incident, even if it was bought for 81 million by a different company owned by the same owner that owns Darby. Let's talk accounting. I hate accounting. I'm gonna try and explain this the best way I can though. Since 2016, Darby County have been using a completely different approach in terms of accounting than every other EFL club. When it comes to buying a player for every club besides Darby County, there's the straight line approach. So for example, a player is bought for 3 million on a 3-year deal. That means the player's value would go down 1 million each year to get to 0 by the end of the contract. That means there's an amortization cost of 1 million every year. But unlike every other club, Derby use what is called the expected recoverable value. So take that same player that we just bought for $3 million on a 3-year deal, but instead the player is given a residual value. Basically what that means is what would the player's value be by the end of his contract. In the first 2 years, the player's value only drops to 2.5 million. So that's an amortization cost of just 250k each year. Then for the final year, that 2.5 million goes straight to zero. So yes, every club in this situation is still paying the same amortization cost. But for Derby, this is very convenient as they're able to push back expenses in order to still be within FFP regulations. But had Derby not discovered this miraculous approach, they would be in a lot of trouble in terms of financial fair play. So that's why there's an issue with this specific approach. Now initially the EFL charged Derby, but Derby won the appeal, meaning no deduction nor fine. But the EFL managed to win their appeal against that decision. And now that means Derby are ordered to resubmit their accounts from 2015-16, 2016-17, and 2017-18. So now where we are is Derby were fined 100k in July by the EFL, and they risk another 9-point deduction plus another 3-point deduction. So if these deductions go through, well, you can very much say hello to League One football, Derby County fans, if you haven't already. But this is really just unfortunate for a lot of the staff that make a living working for this club. They could lose their jobs or have already lost them. I want to specifically talk about the EFL for a second, because that's the bigger picture. Don't get me wrong, right? Derby County definitely deserved to be punished. You can't exactly just push back money in order to fall into financial fair play. That's just unfair. But I swear to God, every single year there's at least like 4 to 5 cases of these EFL clubs that are financially inept. Their owners are stupid, their owners have made dumb mistakes, their owners have dumb plans. The list goes on, and all it does is hurts a club, hurts the people who work for that club, and of course the supporters. I don't know, when it comes to EFL clubs, it just feels like there's not enough regulation in terms of who actually owns a club. Mel Morris spent so much goddamn money to try and promote, and he failed. Was there any discussion about this amongst the EFL regulators? I have no clue. Because easily enough, you could talk out this situation, line up how exactly this is all gonna work, make sure the man doesn't breach regulations. I don't know, man. I'm not exactly a person or an expert in terms of this kind of stuff, but I definitely feel like if there are 4 or 5 different clubs every single goddamn year going through this, there's a problem. The EFL overall just need to do a better job at regulating owners, especially during times like this, a pandemic, when clubs are struggling even more. I don't know if you know this, but most Championship, League 1, League 2 sides, they've been forced to sell their best players and limit themselves to just free transfers or very, very cheap transfers. But now back to Derby County. With the club in administration, fans and staff will hope to see the right purchaser to drag Derby out of this mess. But I'd love to hear what you guys think of this situation. I'm sure there's a lot of stuff I'm missing because I really just wanted to make this kind of a roundup of what has happened at Derby County. A massive thank you to our patrons, Lewis, Emmett Shea, Dominic Griffin, Joseph Bonfante, and Tomicus. If you'd like to join the Patreon, there'll be a link down below and also in the annotations. Be sure to follow my Twitter as well. There's some video updates there. You can follow my Instagram, follow my TikTok, trying to get to 2,000, and also you can follow my Twitch. But until then, I'll see you guys.